Hello.
Hello. Good
Hello.
morning.
Yeah, good morning. Good morning. Yes, so you were
Okay.
asking about the flying star in terms of their how do I put in terms of how to analyze it within the chart. Am I right?
Yes. More specifically, it's the clash.
Clash. All right. All right.
So
Yeah,
so
I get what you mean.
is it only it when it flies to an external, and then you look at the opposite is a clash?
Okay. In terms of this clash, right? Okay. Perhaps if you are okay, I show you some visual aids to help you understand this. Or perhaps I will just explain to you. Okay, in terms of the
Please
clash,
do.
right? Basically, in perhaps I will start off with the translation from the Chinese. In Chinese teaching, in terms of 紫微斗数, this clash is basically means 冲. When 冲 happens, is basically saying that certain catalyst star is being placed at the opposite domain of a certain domain. You understand
Right.
this point, right?
So okay, the definition that I is when Hua Ji Fa
Yeah.
flies into an external, right? From
Yes.
internal to an external,
Yes.
and then that means the opposite is clash.
Yes. Correct.
So if it's going into if Hua Fagi goes into internal, there is no clash. Is that correct?
They will still be clash. Or what I see is the really the translation of the term clash. Basically, it means it is at the opposite domain which will carries with it influence. Because as I have told you before, within a 紫微斗数 birth chart, we will always follow the rules of 三方四正, which is to take into the consideration of the opposite domain and the adjacent domain, which is the fourth domains to the left and the fourth domains to the right. We will not only analyze the domain alone, we will always take into the considerations of the energies of the opposite domain and the adjacent domain. That's the reason why it will affect the main the certain domain that you're analyzing. But I believe your question is um whether it is called clash, even it is flying into an internal domain. Is that your question?
Correct.
Yes, it is still a kind of clash. It will still be considered as a kind of clash, or to be more specifically in terms of meaning, it means that it will still carries with it certain influence to that specific birth chart that you are looking at. When this clash happens, it will still influence to the certain. For example, you are looking at the spouse domain. Or okay, perhaps you are looking at the career domain. Okay, well, spouse domain is an external domain. Am I correct to say that? Can you understand this
Yes.
point? Yes. So
Yes.
given that career domain is an internal domain, whereas spouse domain is an external domain. When the star Hua Ji Fage is appearing in the spouse domain, it will still have a form of influence to the career domain, despite the fact that the career domain is an internal domain.
No. Okay, so I'm just reading from the book. It
Yeah.
says uh, mm, when sometimes the Huaji will just enter into a palace
Yeah.
without without affecting the opposite. It only happens when a clash will only happen when the internal palace pass Huaji to an external, where then it will be the clash will happen with the opposite.
That I
Otherwise,
disagree. That I disagree. But there are many different books in the market, and within 紫微斗数, there are also various schools such as 天天派, 山河派, or 北派, all are having different sets of theories. But what I suggest is to read them through, but ultimately, from your experience and from your own judgment, to have to come to a conclusion as to that statement is correct. So a lot of critical thinking has to be conducted when you read various books that are related to Wei Dou Shu. Even the flying star system, if you go and do some deeper research, you will realize that different schools have different flying stars according to the heavenly stamps also. So at the end of the day, I stick to the school of thought that is by the Qian Tian Pai. Qian Tian Pai is a school that is basically the original school from the imperial courts in China when Wei Dou Shu was being used as a form of analysis for the emperor's house and to provide advices to the emperor to govern the nation. So that school was placing is a school that is placing more focus on the flying star system. So to come back to your question, regardless whether it is internal or external domain, the clashing relationship will still take place. All right, okay?
Okay.
Yeah.
In Cantonese, what pi is that? How do you say it in Cantonese?
In Cantonese, it's called okay, I will send you the Chinese name instead because I believe, right, sometimes the Cantonese is different from Hong Kong, is different from China, is different from. So I will send you the writing instead. Will that be better? So that you can just quickly copy and paste on the Google and do some research on it. But there are not much direct translation of this school of 紫微斗数 into English. Nonetheless, you should still go ahead and explore it. So I will send you the Chinese name later on via WhatsApp.
How do you say it in Chinese? How do you say it in Cantonese?
天天牌.
Tin.
Yes, correct.
Tin. Good. Okay, so my next question is, when it says, whenever something says authority or thing to opposite, does that mean that it is the transformer star is going to the opposite or is from the opposite?
Okay, this is another theory in terms of the flying star. Okay, let me first go through with you step by step. There are two types of patterns in terms of the flying star. One is flying star having a self-transformation energy, which is called 激发. Whereas the other type, there are two main categories. Okay, let me first start with the two main categories. The first type is when the flying star is having the 激发, which is self-transforming form of energy. Whereas the second category is whereby the stars will fly in and something like an orbit to another domain, basing on either your yearly heavenly stamp or the heavenly stamp within that specific domain. Would you like me to show you some visual aid so that it will be easier for you to understand this point?
If I could,
you are okay with that?
Sure, but
all right. Perhaps it's quite hard now. But perhaps later on. Anyway. Okay. Let me first talk it through verbally. The first category, you understand is 激发, which is the 画权、画路、画科、画技, right at the specific domain where the heavenly stamp is having the self-transforming energy. The second one, which I've talked about already, is it flies in terms of an orbit. And within the first type, okay, now I'm talking about the first type that I mentioned, which is self-transforming energy, 就是激发, 自化, okay, 激发. There will be two patterns in terms of the flying, in terms of the direction it flies. The first pattern is this flying star is flying away from the specific domain. In Chinese, it is called 离心力自化. 离心力自化 means the flying star energy is emitting from that specific domain. For instance, you are having, I will use best the same example. You are having spouse domain pairing with 画技, okay? Then
Yes.
the career domain will be experiencing a 向心力自化, 向心力自化 means the career domain is experiencing the energy of flying star emitting from the spouse domain towards the career domain. So it means that in such a case, it will mean that your spouse will create problems in your life that will affect your career progress or development. Are you able to understand this point?
So you're saying that the original was the spouse was had a disease.
Yes. Okay. Let me repeat again one more time. Okay. I will use back the same example. It will be easier for me to show you visually, but never mind. Just remember that. Okay. Okay. Now we only focus on the self-transforming energy. Okay, which is 自化. Okay. Just remember,
Okay.
we are only talking about 自化 right now. Okay. Can?
Yes.
All right. So let's say the spouse domain is having the negativity enhanced star, which is called 化忌.
Yes. Okay.
Yes. So that means spouse domain is experiencing a kind of 自化, which is called 離心力自化, which is a kind of negativity enhancer star energy emitting from spouse domain. And this energy can be channeled away from the spouse domain to affect the career domain. Is this point clear to you?
Yes. Okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
so this is basically the same as the concept of clashing that you have asked about. This basically is the same thing, but we are using these different words to describe this process of the emission of energy from one domain to another domain. Are you able to understand? Yeah.
Yes, but it doesn't matter which star it's attached to, right?
Usually it has to be taken into consideration or be you have to analyze the stars that are pairing with the negativity enhancer star in tandem to give you the full picture as to what is developing in that person's life.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's always going to be, so only T-pop has the it goes into the opposite. How about authority, power, or luck?
Yes, it will apply the same for authority, for fame, for wealth, and for, as long as this is a kind of flying star, it will apply the same. The same rule will apply to all these flying stars, the different types of flying stars.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
what does it mean to be opposite then? Go to opposite.
Okay. There are two patterns in terms of this flying star. Just now I talk about spouse domain is I use spouse domain as an example. When the negativity enhancer star is found within the spouse domain, and it is emitting energy away. I mean, from the spouse domain, the negativity enhancer star energy will be channeled into the career domain, as long as it is, because career domain is the travel domain of the spouse domain, right? That is a very obvious concept that you should have been clear about right now. Am I right? You can understand this point, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So good. Excellent. So now let's look at the career domain. When we look at the career domain, we have to remember that the negativity enhances star energy from the spouse domain will influence the career domain. And this influence is called 向心力自化 or 向心力自化 in Chinese. Means it is absorbing energy. Career domain is absorbing energy from the spouse domain. Are you able to understand this point?
Okay, yes.
All right. So basically, that's a very simple concept, but due to the translation of words, due to the usage of the wordings, it kind of gives it a very confusing impression to the learners or the practitioners who study 紫微斗数, 直面斗数. But basically, it's just if you use the words okay, so you understand this point already. But what I'm trying to say now is, okay, now I will explain the deeper meaning. When the energy is emitting from the spouse domain, it means that the negativity or the problems, the obstacle, the challenges will be one that is caused by the spouse. Okay, means because the energy is from the spouse domain, right? The negativity enhancer start the energy is from the spouse domain. Am I right?
Okay, yeah, from
Yeah.
your example, yes.
Yeah. So it means that the spouse, this aspect of your life, which is called spouse, governing aspects related to marriage, your spouse personality, behaviors, demeanor, etc. All this will create problems to your career. Okay.
Okay.
So okay, so you understand this point. So from the career perspective, this aspect of your life which is related to career, it also means that your career will be affected by activities or the thinking or the emotional problems of your spouse. Okay, this is the very first layer of the basic concept. So how do we further analyze this? You have to look at the stars that is pairing with the negativity enhancer star. For example, if 巨門, if 巨門 is being paired with this negativity enhancer star, then it means that it is from the lagging, from the quarrels with the spouse, the kind of differing in terms of opinions, in terms of arguing with the spouse, or suspicions that is occurring in the spouse mindset that will bring about problems into your career. Are you able to understand this point?
Yes.
Okay, so so that is basically the concept related to this 離心力自化 and 向心力自化. Okay.
So Hyung Samlik would be the career, right?
Yes, 向心力 will be the career. You are correct.
Okay, so how about you plug in Steve Jobs?
Okay.
birth chart?
Okay, let me
Just so that I
open
have a
his
bit-
birth chart. Okay, so I have to make sure that you are looking at the same set of flying star because I don't know if your English software is having the same sequence. Nonetheless, let's look at Steve Jobs' original chart.
Yeah.
Perhaps what example you would like to perhaps look at his travel domain, okay? Travel domain and life domain, which is very obvious. Are you seeing this reputation or the fame catalyst star at the travel domain?
Yes, but let's look at. Can we look at children and property then? Because that's the one I want to. It's the and father to opposite. That's the thing that.
All right. Nonetheless, if you are following the 千天派 the flying star sequence, 画权 the authority catalyst, it is not within the children's domain.
It's self blue, right?
Not really. It's a gloomy star, but there is no flying star. Because if you look at the uh, okay, let me double check. All right, just to double check, you just give me a moment. If you look at um the year of birth of Steve Jobs, it is having Yi heavenly stamps. Am I right? Are you seeing the same thing with me? Are you on at the same page with me?
Yeah, it's Yi Wei, right?
Yes, it is Yi Wei. So Yi Wei
So
is supposed to have the authority flying star or authority catalyst star pairing with Tian Liang, which is at the siblings domain. Because for
no, I'm
Yi,
talking about children.
yep, that's the reason you have to double check your software to see if they are following the correct flying star sequence. So let's say,
Oh,
yeah, you because I personally will take the Tian Tian Pai flying star sequence as the version that I as the version that I believe is the accurate version. So if you look at Yi heavenly stem, it is having 天机 or 天机 pairing with 化禄 Fa Luk. And next we have 天梁 Tin pairing with 化权 or 化权. 子美 or 子为 pairing with 化科 or 化科. 太阴 or 太阴 pairing with 化忌 or 化忌. So basing on this line star sequence, I can only see 天梁 at the siblings domain pairing with 化权 or 化权. Health domain 太阴 pairing with 化忌 or 化忌. Travel domain in terms of travel domain having 子为 or 子美 pairing with 化科 or 化科. And the France domain having 天机天机 pairing with 化禄 or 化禄. So that's the reason I don't
yes,
see.
I see
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
I see that, but in children, Goibu has self.
Are you referring to the decade trend? Yes. 巨門 is having 化禄 is having 化禄. That is self catalyst.
Yes.
Yes, that's having a wealth
see,
domain at the children's domain. You are correct.
Right. So on the bottom of mine, it also says Fa to opposite.
Yeah, opposite at the original chart property domain, which is the travel domain of the children's domain, is having 化權 at the 太陽啊. Are you seeing the same thing as me?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay, cool. So basically, you want to ask, what is your question?
Well, I just want to see it on my software. It says Fa to opposite and Fa 4 to opposite.
Yeah.
From the children's domain.
Yeah.
So I just want to know the to opposite. What does that mean?
Okay, so you can see the travel domain of the children's domain is the property domain, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so family background is related to property domain. Of course, inheritance is also related to the property domain. So having 太陽 pairing with 化權 or 化權 and also 穩住文曲 pairing with 化科 or 化科, it would mean the children will have a positive family background or a very huge inheritance. 太陽 or 太陽 the sun also refers to reputation or public image. So because of the success of the parent, the children will also be able to enjoy a form of positive public image or be famous. So that is the meaning behind this Fa Kun and Fa 4 at the opposite domain of the children's domain. this style of line is called 向心力自化 to the children's domain. You get what I mean? Because the energy is emitting from the property domain to the children's domain, the direction is such that the 化權 and 化科 or the authority and the fame catalyst is flying from the property domain into the children's domain. Can you understand this point?
So what this says, so it's 化 to opposite. It doesn't mean that it's actually getting from property to children. So the children.
Sorry, can you speak louder?
Okay. It doesn't mean that the 化 is coming from the property, and the 化4 is coming from property because of the.
Yes, you are correct. They are coming from the property.
Because of the sin heavenly stem domain?
Yes, because given the sin heavenly stem, Taiyuan is having the authority catalyst, Menkok is having the fame catalyst. So you can understand how it influences, because the property domain will refer to the family background, also it refers to the inheritance. Either one will pass to the children, or the children will receive from the parents.
But then in the property it says gay to opposite, so it's coming in sin. What is sin?
Sorry, I cannot hear you. Can you speak louder?
So in the property domain it says it's gay to opposite, gay to opposite. So where is that coming from?
Okay, so now let's take a look at the property domain. When you focus on the property domain, taking property domain as the focus point, you can see that Jimen is being paired with Fage, the negativity enhancer star. Am I right? Are you seeing the same thing?
Oh, that's because of the thing.
Yes, Ding heavenly stem is having Gui Moon pairing with Fage, the negativity enhancer star. Am I right? You are seeing the same thing, right?
So it flies to the property.
Yes, you are correct. So from children's domain, it will fly into the property domain. And I have mentioned before, when Hua Ge or the negativity enhancer star is emitting energy into internal domain, it actually means storage, being able to preserve, being able to keep. So it means that the children will be able to preserve his inheritance, a large sum of inheritance. Okay? Are you able to catch this point?
This is very complicated.
Yes, flying star is very complicated, but I will say after some time you will get used to it, because that's the reason 八字 is very intuitive, it's very direct, it's very straightforward. You just lay out the entire chart. You don't really have to I mean, from a first glance, you'll be able to tell a lot of things. Well, 紫微斗數 or 紫微斗數, you have to change the domain, the focus point. For example, you look at children's domain, it will give you a different set of flying star. Whereas you look at the property domain, it will also give you a different set of flying star. There are many layers in 紫微斗數. But I would say it's all about practice. The more you practice, the more you are able to use to this style of analysis. It is more complicated. Will be best if you have a very good software to help you. If not, if you plot your charts manually, it will cost a lot of it will be very time consuming and very tedious, especially if you are conducting 紫微斗數 at a practitioner level, whereby you have to see different clients every day, so you won't have the sufficient time to plot the chart. But they are all following same type of rules. It's very technical in terms of 紫微斗數. It's very technical. As long as you're able to follow the rules properly, then you'll be able to provide an accurate reading. But 八字 is very philosophical. You have to understand the philosophy. For example, what is balancing? It's a very abstract concept. How do you achieve balance? The Wu Xing cycle of creation and destruction. Sometimes it's rather philosophical, whereby you really have to come to very abstract kind of logic in terms of Bazi reading. Sometimes I will call it fuzzy logic, but Bazi is able to give you a very intuitive kind of interpretation. So both schools are different. So if you are able to master both schools, then you'll be able to have a very holistic view in terms of astrological analysis. All right. Okay. So do you have any questions related to this flying star?
Well, I understand a little more now, so
Yeah.
probably just need to digest it.
All right, that's great. Sure, you will definitely need time to digest. Flying star system is very different from just the analysis of the main star. You you will definitely need to get used to it. How to go about identifying the flying directions of the stars. For example, besides self transformation, I also told you another style of flying star, which is called Fei Gong, which is very much like orbiting around the chart. The flying star energy is orbiting around the chart. So I will suggest you go and clarify the concept for the self transformation energy first before moving on to the orbiting flying star pattern. Then it will help you to build up the foundation step by step. So it will prevent you to get yourself into too much confusion. Will that be good for you?
Can you give me a quick example of what an orbiting?
Okay, it's very simple. For example, let's look at Steve Jobs.
Yep.
His self domain is at the Tassa, the seven killing, correct?
At the sun.
Yes. Yes, as the sun, you are correct. So from the sun, because the flying star sequence is such that for a Gap Mok, the Jia Wu heavenly stem, what are the flying star? Lian Zhen will be pairing with the wealth catalyst.
Yeah.
Po Jun or Po Guan is being paired with the authority. Mo Kok or Wu is paired with the fame. And Taiyang is being paired with the negativity. So
Correct.
you can see when we focus at place the focus point at the life domain or the self destiny domain, then his career domain will have Po Guan or the Po Jun pairing with the authority catalyst. So what it means is that he is someone very creative in terms of his career. That's the reason he invented the iPhone, for instance. And this iPhone was, when he was around, basically was the dominating or the leading brand or the leading gadget within the IT industry. That is that is shown by the authority catalyst star found within the career domain, which is the Po Guan at the career, right? Are you seeing the same thing as me?
Yes.
Okay, so that's cool. So so you can see from due to him having life or self-destiny domain at the court of Sun, having Jia as the heavenly stem, this will cause an orbiting flying star pattern to the career domain, causing Po Guan to be paired with the authority catalyst. Thus, he was able to invent Apple, this company, or started this Apple company, which really was a revolutionary development in terms of the computer industry. Last time, people used to have that kind of bulky computer for very scientific use. Whereas Apple was able to create a new form of product, which was very revolutionary, breaking away from the old, destroying the old, and starting something new. That was the major theme throughout the career development of Steve Jobs, if I may say. If you look back, if you double check with the Wikipedia, okay, throughout his career, he was constantly providing revolutionary ideas and products and services to the world. For example, he started the company called Pixel, which was very much um, a kind of new company during his time, or 20 or 30 years ago, whereby digital animation was something still very new, especially three-dimensional animation movies. But he started that also, and ultimately he also moved on to make iPad, iPhone, iPod. All the products was revolutionary in nature during his time. That was something that is clearly shown by the Paul Gun Star or the Paul Jun Star found right at his career domain, having the transforming or the authority catalyst star due to the heavenly stems of his self-destiny domain. Are you able to catch what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yes,
but
cool.
If, you go, if in Ja, then Li Jing would be having the Fa, right?
Lin Zheng is having followed. You are correct. So you can say, in a way, his spouse may contribute to his career success. I'm not very sure what happened between him and his spouse, but from this direction, it would mean that behind his endeavors, his wife would have a form of supporting role towards him. Faruk is an energy that can also represent emotional support or moral support, etc.
But how is that paired with Li Jing?
How you mean the Tian Shan? Is it the Tian Shan?
No, his Ja in his destiny domain.
Yeah.
That means the orbiting flying.
Yeah, it means that he will give his spouse money. When the flying star of Fa Lu, or the wealth catalyst, from his destiny domain, having Tiangang or the heavenly stems as the Jia, emitting the Fa Lu energy into the spouse domain, it means that Steve Jobs will bring wealth to his spouse also, causing his spouse to be wealthy. Able to understand this point? Yes, because okay, Lin Jing is related to sometimes related to governing, related to policy making, related to family blood relations. So in a way, besides the spouse being rich, the spouse family will also be rich due to Steve Jobs. And also it could mean that Steve Jobs will allow his wife to manage his wealth or even make some policy on his behalf. That's very much related to perhaps inheritance in terms of money management type of activities. Are you able to follow?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's great. So so perhaps we also look at his mind karmic domain, which is also called the containment domain. Having this flying star energy entering into the mind karmic domain or the containment domain, with Wuchi pairing with the fame catalyst or the reputation catalyst, it means that throughout his life he will be able to enjoy great fame and reputation. Additionally, fame and reputation catalyst star is also representative of academic achievement or someone having a very specialized knowledge in certain field. And for him, it's definitely in terms of IT. And also in terms of making money, okay, he's very wise in terms of making money. You look at the marketing kind of campaigns by Apple. Their marketing skill is very creative, and of course, Apple is still now a very lucrative company, even though it is not as good as before, but it is still a very lucrative company. And having this far for or the fame or reputation catalyst star at the containment domain, it means that throughout his life he will be able to enjoy wealth due to his fame, reputation, and knowledge. Okay.
Okay, and the last one would be Tai of Fage, right?
Yes, at the time, Fage, as I have mentioned, Fage, when found within the internal domain, such as property domain, is a positive sign, means that you are able to keep a lot or store up a lot or preserve a lot. So having property domain pairing with tire at the pairing with negativity enhanced star Fage, because Fage is also referring to storage of energy when found within the internal domain, and property domain is an internal domain. So it could mean that he will have a lot of property or buildings under his name, or his buildings or the property that he owns will be very famous. For example, the office building of Apple, which is still building right now, if I'm not wrong. Is it completed yet? The one that's circular in shape? I don't know whether it's still building or not. But nonetheless, it is a positive indication of having great fixed assets. Okay, fixed assets. Because property domain basically is referring to fixed assets such as obviously houses, buildings, office, different forms of fixed assets. Okay, so are you able to get a better idea on what Flying Star is about after going through Steve Jobs' web chat?
Yes, I think I can.
Yeah, that's cool. That's great. That's great. All right. So perhaps I would suggest. Yeah. Yeah.
The next step would be to go on layering the decade and the year.
Yes, yes, and to be familiar with the orbiting flying star pattern. I will suggest to master properly the self transformation energy first before moving on to the orbiting flying star pattern. Go step by step, then it will not cause too much of a confusion. Will that be great? Will that be okay for you?
Sure. But
Sure. Yeah.
The self would only be when if the star is within the same heavenly stem, right?
Yeah. Sorry, can you speak louder?
So the self transformation only occurs when the star that's within the domain matches with the heavenly stem of the domain, like one of the transformers within the heavenly stem of the domain.
I can't really understand your question. Perhaps you want to type out, then I can read from the wordings. Or you can speak in Cantonese. I can. Maybe I will have a better idea.
No, the thing is with self.
Yeah.
It only occurs when a star is within a domain that has its self transformation.
Yes, you are correct. You are correct. You just really need to revert back to the flying star sequence, the chart, the flying star sequence chart. Then you'll be able to tell. It's very complicated because sometimes flash are. The flying stars sometimes are flying into, from one domain to another. Sometimes it's flying away. Sometimes it's flying into the domain. So you have to get all these concepts clear first. Then you will be able to use it properly further down the road.
Okay, what does it mean by flying away?
Flying away is very much a form of 自发, the self transformation energy. That is flying away because the starting point is from your domain to another domain. 自发 basically is just the flying away. 自发 is flying away, whereby the travel domain that is opposite of the 自发 is flying into. to simplify this concept, let me repeat once again. 自發 means flying away, whereby the opposite domain of the 自發 is having a flying into. You get what I mean? Can you understand what I mean? Okay, sure. All right. Perhaps you take some time to digest first. Then, if you have more questions, you can WhatsApp me again.
Okay.
Because if I tell you too much now, right, you will be more and more confused. So get one concept right at a time. Digest it properly first. Familiarize, practice the concept. Then, before you move on to the next. If not, you will be overwhelmed. Yeah. Okay. So I hope you can have a rough idea now at least. So thank you very much. So I will let you have some time first to really clear your to slowly because when I tell you is one thing, whether you are able to absorb what I say and understand what I say is another thing. So I will need to give you some time to make sure that you know, okay? Okay, cool. All right. So do feel free to WhatsApp me anytime you will need more clarification. All right. So so I will talk to you again. Okay, sure. All right, great. Have a good week ahead. All right. So see you. Talk to you again in the next couple of days. Okay. Bye bye.